Forgiveness. That was so beautiful, and we were so blessed by the Reverend Prince Fleet Easton and his amazing talent and the beauty of his sermons and music. I just love that. And he gave a beautiful interview this week with Laura Topper from London, who started tuning into my Wednesday night lives and said that my message had changed her life. And I was so deeply moved by that. And then she started watching on Sunday. And she's a musician herself and invited Fleet on her program, the Cosmic Prayer Group, which is beautiful. So you need to go on Fleet's timeline, or mine, because I shared it, and watch that beautiful interview this week. It was just fabulous. And this is one of my favorite topics. This was my greatest challenge when I came into Science of Mind. And I came into Science of Mind when I was in my early 20s. And I began taking the Science of Mind classes. I took Science of Mind 1. In fact, at the door was Terry Cole Whitaker. And she said, hi, I am the superintendent of Sunday school. Do you have any kids? And we said no. And she said, well, get some, because I'm the superintendent of Sunday school. So a year later, Tricia was born. And we would take her over to Auntie Terry's and the two girls, and they would babysit for us. And so there was a long history of shared energy and the love of the Locker Center Church of Religious Science, which they changed their names to Centers for Spiritual Living because people kept confusing religious science with Scientology and Christian Science and other modalities. But religious science, remember, the laws of science, the opinions of philosophy, the revelations of religion applied to human need and the aspirations of every living soul. So when we look at the revelations of religion, when I came into this way of life, I was raised in domestic violence. So much went on. And when I heard the minister say, you are loved, you are beautiful, you have a right to be here, that resonated with me because I had not heard that a whole lot growing up. I had a very close relationship with my mother, but my father came back from World War II very damaged and a very abusive alcoholic. And he himself was not wanted in his own family. So he perpetuated that energy. I'm the pattern breaker. I come from a long line of alcoholics. I am the pattern breaker, but I had a lot of forgiveness work to do. And you know, I would feel that I had forgiven, and then it would come up, and I'd feel those feelings we feel, the angst and the grief and the energy, and I would have to go within again and again and again until I had some sense of release. And when we release these negative energies, and remember the old statement by Einstein, when we don't wish someone well, you know, and we don't forgive, it's like us taking poison and expecting them to die, right? We are the ones that are being what? It's detrimental for us. We are the ones being affected. So energetically, I want to share with you something that Nelson Mandela said. And when I was in South Africa in the 80s, I was speaking there for the International New Thought Alliance. And I actually had a proclamation to give to the mayor of South Africa from our mayor in San Diego. And I had a ministry in San Diego for 30 years. We had 3,000 people showing up every week. And it was an amazing ministry. And then one day I decided to go independent and create the energy for the Center for the Celebration of Life. But I did ask the mayor if I could see Nelson Mandela. And of course, he was on lockdown. We all kind of know what that feels like at a very, very interesting level, don't we? So he said something that was so powerful. He said, forgiveness liberates the soul. It removes fear. That is why it is such a powerful weapon. And I'm going to repeat it. It's so powerful. Forgiveness liberates the soul. It removes fear. That is why it is such a powerful weapon. Because when we don't fear something, when you take the fear out of it, there is only that energy of what? Spirit gazing back at us. And he said, and I love this, that courageous people do not fear forgiveness for the sake of peace. for the sake of peace. The higher calling, right? Courageous people don't fear forgiveness for the sake of peace. And when we allow that peace within us to come up, and can you imagine spending 27 years in prison? And even the guards, revered him. And he was counseling guards, and he was working on himself. It was not always that way. But when we do a good work on ourselves, those feelings release and return to their native nothingness from whence they came. Tomorrow is the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King's birthday, which we are commemorating. And he said, forgiveness is not an occasional act. It is a constant act. It is a constant act. And in the 1980s, I was one of the presenters for the Sisterhood Bridge in Los Angeles. And I was sharing the stage with Coretta Scott King, the wife of Dr. Martin Luther King. And we had an opportunity to sit together afterwards and just talk, and like two mothers. And she said that Martin Luther King Jr. was always upset that they did not let them play with G.I. Joes or anything about war or violence. And he was always upset about it. But the day his father was assassinated, he went to his mother and he said, I understand, and I need to carry on this work of nonviolence. God, he said, be the change you want to see in the world. So as we come together and acknowledge that there's a power and a presence and an energy in the universe greater than we are, and we can not only use it, we are using it every single day of our lives. Let's start using it consciously. Let's add to the universal shift in consciousness, tip the scales in favor of world peace and spirituality. That is our ground of being. So we're experiencing, in quotes, a lockdown. We're experiencing a pandemic. But the truth is, within us, it is ever expansive within us that moves beyond color, race, creed, sexual orientation, and political affiliation to the ground of being, of why we are actually here on the planet. And I believe for conscious people on the planet, we came for such a time as this, to add our consciousness into that light that penetrates the dark. Not only penetrates the dark, it absorbs the dark. Not only absorbs the dark, it illuminates the dark, and shadows flee away forever and ever and ever. And what we know is that as we take a stand on opening the space to allow God to do what God does best by means of each and every one of us who heard the call, and that call is within us. And I love the Apostle Paul when he said, I must preach the gospel. Woe be it unto me if I don't. In other words, when we have a divine calling, we must do it. Woe be it unto us if we do not. It's our destiny. We came to fulfill our destiny. So as we are fulfilling that destiny, a space opens. Now, I believe in self-disclosure. I don't want you to feel that people look at me and they even think I don't post my own things on Facebook. On the more business pages, I don't always, like events and things like that. But on my personal page, in the Dr. Sharron Straw page, those are my words. I'm not, delegating to someone else to post that for me. And I have never held myself up above. We have a stage so people can see us, and that we go through our own experiences. And as we go through our own experiences, we grow. We're the greatest benefactors. I have always said, I do this for me. And if you get something out of it, wonderful. And I had someone say, oh, I don't think you should be saying that from the pulpit. It just sounds so selfish. I said, self, yes. If I do not have something, and I have not nurtured the self with a capital S, the unconditioned self, as Dr. Robert Holden talks about in his book, Shift Happens, then I have nothing to give. However, when I know that I do this for me, my evolution, my unfoldment, then I have something to give you. The minute I think I'm giving to you, I go into martyrdom. I go into all I've done for them. I was up at 2 in the morning at the hospital, and I said something they didn't like. They quit coming. You know, all the stuff ministers go through. You know, I want to acknowledge our ministers today. I want to acknowledge those of you that, I've been doing this for 45 years. And we're at the bedsides. We're at the deathbeds. We're at the weddings and the christenings and the wonderful ceremonies. I had 2 men come here to the Rose of Sharon Sanctuary who had been here. They had been together 46 years. And it was just so darling. They decided that they would get married, and they only wanted to sign the marriage certificate. No ceremony, no pomp, no circumstance. I said, no, we'll do like, I had them hold hands. These are the hands that are going to massage the stress from your shoulders. These are the hands that are going to caress you when you have a sad day. These are the hands that will wipe your tears. These are the hands that will just joyously hug you in those moments of celebration. By the time, I finished this little part, they were in tears. They were so grateful that I added this, but they were so darling. They said, 46 years together. We thought we better, sign the marriage certificate rather than a death certificate. They were funny. And then we had some non-alcoholic, wonderful Martinellis. We did a little toast, and I took pictures. And they wanted those pictures. It was just so darling. They came very casually, just going to sign something, and then, we're going to make it legal. And it was a celebration of life. And all the things that we go through in the celebrations of life, and that forgiveness, or the energy of when we're in relationships, forgiveness is really part of the ground of being. Remember, he drew a circle that shut me out, but love and I had the wit to win. We drew a circle that took him in. So on this day, we make a commitment that forgiveness gives us wings. When I could forgive my childhood, I could forgive my father, I could forgive my family, and remembering with the Course in Miracles that miracles are not only progressive, they're retroactive. They heal the ancestral line. So when we forgive energetically, we become the prayer that's praying itself. And suddenly, there's nothing to forgive, is there? When my father apologized to me, it was such an amazing moment. And he wept. And I said, Daddy, I would not be who I am today without those experiences. I would not trade them for anything, nor would I repeat them. I learned. And to have an apology after going through so much childhood angst. And my mother also. My mother had one goal in her life, and that was to get her kids raised. Once we were raised, the 2 saddest things in life are what? Having a goal and not reaching it, and having a goal and reaching it. Because now what? Is this all there is? So she began drinking with my father because she had fulfilled her purpose in life to get her kids raised. And she told my father, I put up with you for 25 years. You're going to put up with me. And his way of putting up with her was to find a younger woman, 5 years older than me, and go off with her. So my mother became even more bitter. And it's so fascinating how that works, because we create our own reality. And if we're going to take the poison and expect them to die, guess what? We're not going to be here on the planet very long, are we? We're just not. So if we take what happens to us and realize it didn't happen to us, it happened for us, so that we would grow and unfold and become all that we can be. My patron saint in the Buddhist culture is Kuan Yin. In fact, there's a beautiful little jade Kuan Yin here on my table that Reverend Fleet gave me a few years ago that he brought back from Florida. And Kuan Yin is the goddess of love and compassion. So when we open our hearts to love and compassion, we see through what has been demonstrated and say, what have I learned from this? I have grown. I'm not going to hold them responsible. And you know what's so interesting is I know people that hold others responsible for their good, and that's why they haven't progressed. Because they're holding someone else responsible for their lives. Forgiveness gives us wings. And a very controversial quote that I love is, forgiveness is the fragrance the violet leaves on the heel that has crushed it. Think about it. Forgiveness is the fragrance the violet leaves on the heel that has crushed it. And what that means is that we go through our experiences, and at times we do feel crushed, right? But to be who we are, to keep on keeping on, to hear the divine call, to realize we are fulfilling a destiny, no one is going to make us hate. And when Booker T. Washington was walking down the street with a dear friend, a man came by and he just elbowed him off the sidewalk because people of color were not allowed on the sidewalk in those days. In fact, Thoreau went to jail, went to prison. And Ralph Waldo Emerson went to see him and said, my dear friend, what are you doing in prison? And Thoreau said, no. The question is, what are you doing out there in a government that would enslave human beings? What are you doing out there? He took a stand, didn't he? He took a stand. And as we take a stand in our lives and acknowledge that life is doing it for us by means of these personalities that are really principles. When Tesla said, if you want to know the secrets of life, think in terms of what? Energy, frequency, and vibration. So then it takes it out of the realm of personality into principle, doesn't it? Takes it out of that realm. So when we look at forgiveness is the fragrance the violet gives on the heel that has crushed it, that really we are rebirthing ourselves to go to the next level. And nothing and no thing is going to keep us from who we really are. And I always love it when I hear that I do self-disclose, because I feel that life is an evolution. And that as we evolve, if I share certain healings and experiences with you, then you get it. That, oh yes, this really can be healed. I really can move past this. I received a stimulus check in the mail. And it was this address and the name, for the sake of privacy, first name is Marcia, and the last name, I'm going to say Smith. But it's really a different last name. And it's the same name of a woman that was in my San Diego ministry that wreaked havoc. We hired her as the administrator, and she was bipolar, bless her heart, and I was just stunned. And so we had to let her go. She went to the Institute, and she concocted all of these stories about me, of course. But energetically, she wreaked havoc. So when I looked down at this stimulus check with my address and the name of this person, I thought, maybe I have not received my stimulus check yet. Maybe I have other work to do. And as I blessed this person, as I acknowledged this person and the opportunity that we had to draw the larger circle, he drew a circle that shut me out. Heretic, rebel, a thing to flout. But love and I had the wit to win. We drew a circle that took her in. And so I just went within, and I have not thought about this person since 1980 something. And here her name on the stimulus check with my address. So I will have to research this further and probably just return to sender, which is the Secretary of State, it looks like, and bless this occurrence, because nothing happens by chance. In fact, if you're viewing at this moment, you have a divine appointment. We have a divine appointment together. So when we recognize that everything that comes into our energy field carries a message. Blessed are they who have eyes that see, who have ears that hear. And when I asked Coretta Scott King so many years ago, as we sat and talked as two mothers and two widows, I said, what was the most favorite thing your husband ever said of his quotes. And she said, without hesitation, it's not the color of your skin, it's the content of your character. And when we acknowledge the content of our character, and with Martin Luther King Jr., we realize that darkness will never drive out darkness. Only light can do that, right? Hate will never drive out hate. Only love can do that. Love being the strongest healing power in the universe. Let's not hold anyone responsible for our lives, our destiny, and our good. Let them go. Let them go. And when we let them go, we are the greatest benefactors. And this is why I love our way of life, is that I do this for me. I am the greatest benefactor. And if you get something out of it, wonderful, because you're receptive and resonating to the frequency of this message. And the minute we think we're doing it for someone else, we go into martyrdom, victimhood, and oh my gosh, all I've done for them. That does not serve us, does it? So let's acknowledge that forgiveness has wings. Let our fragrance permeate the energy field of the planet and the opportunity that we have to make a difference. And I'm going to repeat these quotes by Nelson Mandela. Forgiveness liberates the soul. It removes fear. That is why it is such a powerful weapon. Fear knocked at the door. Guess what? Faith answered. No one was there. And of course, courageous people do not fear forgiving for the sake of peace. The larger energy field for the sake of peace. And Dr. Martin Luther King, forgiveness is not an occasional act. It is a constant act. A constant act of giving for something larger than ourselves. So we're all on a journey, and we're all going somewhere. And where is that? Higher yet. Where is it? Higher yet. Where is it? Higher yet. Because we are in a high place, and we will not come down. None of these outer things move us. We are in a high place, and we will not come down. I say namaste. The God in me salutes the God in you, and the God in you salutes the God in me. And if I am in that place in me, and you are in that place in you, there is only one of us. Namaste. And I say, shalom, the peace that passes all understanding. And God bless us, everyone. And so it is. Thank you. It's a joy to be here today to share this message and acknowledge our viewing audience and our in-house audience. And I feel this is an honor and a privilege to give this message and to know that I am the greatest benefactor of this. And so it is. Thank you. And now our wonderful, complete